right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys present Tales of the Trophies, the Big Ten's greatest rivalries. I'm Mike with Joe and EJ hanging out on a beautiful Labor Day Sunday, and we are basking in the glory of week one college football. It's been an incredible week one here. We're hanging out, really enjoying the long weekend. Guys, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back. Football's back. Joe, how are we doing?
Yeah, it's good. We had a good weekend of games, opening weekend, lots of excitement and kind of a few upsets, a few thrillers, but can't really ask for more.
Yeah, I think when we looked at this slate, like we talked about in the last episode, that we were really pumped, a lot of good matchups, and it definitely didn't disappoint. And, I know we'll get into that a little bit later, but I mean, I couldn't be more pleased with having football back and having fans back. Like it was fantastic. It was everything my heart could have hoped for. My heart was very full at the end of this weekend.
I am still riding the high of now. Most of this is because my Michigan State Spartans looked like a real football team on Friday, but
yeah, I think we all went 3 for 3, right?
Yeah. It was a great weekend for our teams, and I'm riding this high. And yesterday was just a great slate. So yeah, I'm really excited, but why don't we start off with our drink of the week? So Joe, what are we drinking?
Yeah, so going with our theme, we've got the Templeton Sour. So obviously the Templeton rye whiskey, and the drink of choice this week is the Templeton Sour. So with this one, we got 2 ounces of 6-year rye, we got simple syrup, lemon juice, egg white, and then it's topped off with a 1 ounce of Malbec floater.
And we should probably drop a link whenever we post this episode or something to let the people see. We just went on the Templeton website and we pulled up the recipe. It's a whiskey sour, but they obviously called it the Templeton Sour. And I mean, my biggest thing is don't be, I guess, intimidated by the recipe. Like me, as someone who doesn't I don't make a lot of cocktails. I drink my whiskey neat, right? So I was a little intimidated by making this. I had to go out and buy a Hawthorne strainer, but that was super easy to find at the grocery store. I think it only cost a couple bucks. But whenever I was going out and buying this stuff, I actually forgot. I got a small thing of Malbec because I don't drink Malbec. I like wine, but I don't drink Malbec. I had some Templetons I picked up the other day. I had eggs, but I didn't have a simple syrup. I don't make a lot of cocktails. I forgot to pick it up at the store, but I quickly Googled what's a good replacement for simple syrup. And they said maple syrup, agave syrup, and honey. So I actually made this with maple syrup, and I'll have to try it with simple syrup sometime, but this is a delicious drink.
Oh, did we start drinking them already?
Let's I guess we have here.
Right.
Joe, have you not tasted it? I kind of cheated earlier.
Oh, yeah, I cheated. I definitely cheated.
All right, well, cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys. I will say I was definitely intimidated by the wine aspect of it, because I've had my fair share of whiskey sours, but to add wine definitely gave me some hesitation, but it is lovely.
It's got a little twist
surprised on it. Yeah, it's tasted really good.
Yeah, whiskey sour is usually my drink of choice, so welcome drink this week. So adding the wine it's nice.
Do you normally do so for everyone knows it's a wine float, you're supposed to float it with Malbec at the top?
So you get the Malbec first, and then it kind of goes sour after you get that down.
Do you normally do a float when you make it, Joe, or do you make it a different way normally?
Just the whiskey sour in general?
Yeah.
No, I don't usually get into the floats. Maybe egg white here and there, but not typically, especially wine. So,
see, I love whiskey, but I've always shot stating the obvious here. Whiskers and Whiskeys is a podcast, but I've always shied away from whiskey sours because of one bad night in college. That's why I won't drink.
It'll do it.
That's why I won't drink spiced rum. That's why I won't drink whiskey sours. That's why I won't drink tequila with Tabasco sauce. It's just those are my 3 bugaboos. But I gotta say, this I've never done it with, it's kind of an intimidating recipe with the egg white and everything, but I don't know, guys, maybe we share some tips, definitely dry shaking it, so putting all of the ingredients, all the liquid ingredients except for the Malbec in and dry shake it, and then put in ice, shake again, and it'll be nice and frothy. And then that's when you strain it. And then Joe, you had a good tip with how to do the float appropriately. Do you want to share that?
Oh, so yeah, so it's just like any other float, or if you've ever made like a black and blue or a black and tan, just using the spoon, flip the spoon, and then use that to go around the rim and keep it thin. That way, it's not gonna soak down to the bottom and sit on the bottom of the glass.
Oh, the old rim job. I got you. Okay. I can tell you that I had no idea. I mean, I guess I've never made mixtures like that, like a black and tan or anything, but I failed the first time. I think I told you guys that earlier. But then the spoon definitely did the trick the second time around. So,
yeah. So if you want, I can get into a little bit of the history of just, shout out to Templetons and get a little bit of the background on it. And
yeah,
let's do it.
And why it's important for this week's matchup.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so Templeton's it was known to be one of Al Capone's favorite drinks during Prohibition. So that kind of gained popularity, and that's been kind of the rumor throughout history. So I think people have always been interested in it, and Templeton's was a family recipe. And up until recently, 96, they came back and kind of restored the brand. And then in 2006, they started actually putting stuff out. So the Kirchhoff family was the family that first originally made the recipe back during Prohibition. And there's been some, I don't know if I want to say some issues or some kind of confrontation about these drinks or the recipe. At least the recipe itself is impossible to recreate. Apparently, the Templeton's chairman was quoted saying that the recipe is impossible to use due to regulations of the proof and production of rye that are currently in place. So the legalities of it. So that's one thing. And another issue was the actual branding on the bottles. I guess Iowa is known for Templeton's, and when they brought it back, some of the distilling was done in Indiana, and that was a little bit of an issue for people. So maybe one of these days we can have a good buddy who's works at New Holland Distilling, back from episode 3, and he maybe we can get him on sometime, and he can kind of tell us the nuances and why that's important. But he's going to be the kind of expert on that kind of stuff. Maybe we can.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome if we get him on.
I know when I was looking at it very briefly, I thought it was just a pretty cool story. Like Joe had mentioned, Templeton is a city in Iowa, so that's where the namesake comes from, and it was a way for farmers to make extra money back in Prohibition, and that's kind of why Joe was mentioning how their standard, the CDC's standard for, I don't even know if the CDC was a thing back during Prohibition, but if it was, they let motor oil get through, and those are not the standards today. So I can see why that recipe would be difficult to replicate.
And according to their website, they did move all distilling to Iowa for their rye back in 2018. So I honestly don't think what we're drinking the 6 year, I don't think that was distilled in Iowa. So we can't really attest to it, but 2018 and on. So get your Templetons
mark the calendar.
Yeah. Actually, interesting thing, and I should have dug a little deeper when I was looking at it too, Joe. Was I saw an article from 2018 that was kind of announcing that they were starting the distilling process back in Iowa, and they had back in 2018 were shooting for 2020 and 2021 to have the first bottles for sale that were actually distilled in Iowa. Yeah. But naturally the pandemic, I'm sure, pushed that back. So I'm not sure, but that would be a pretty cool thing if we could land that, and maybe later on in the year, because I believe Iowa has a couple more trophies. Be kind of cool if maybe, depending, I don't know, maybe it's not even gonna come out this year, but that'd be pretty cool if we could get our hands on a bottle that was distilled in Iowa.
So Mike, I do know, kind of as EJ says in his portion, I know what you're going to ask.
Wait on me, big guy.
How many people live in Templeton, Iowa?
How many people do live in Templeton?
You guys want to take any guesses?
I'm dying to know.
What's the population?
Yes, I will.
18,000.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go smaller. I'm going to go, for some reason, this feels like a Lynchburg, Tennessee type thing where that's where Jack Daniels is distilled. I'm going to go like 500. I'm going to go way lower.
362.
Oh,
I was way off.
So I'm guessing 360 of them work at Templeton's now.
Yes, I would, put money on that for sure. So let me tell you guys, I have a whiskey sour story that I think people will enjoy. So in college, like most college people, and maybe not, I don't know, I was not a big whiskey drinker. I was definitely, light beer drinker. And if I was drinking a liquor, it was definitely like a vodka or a rum that was mixed, right? I very rarely drank whiskey, but kind of towards the end of college, maybe like right when I got out, I did drink whiskey, but whiskey sours was what I would get. So, but I'm getting these at local college bars and, wherever, right? No fancy place for whiskey.
No egg white.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So that's where the story is heading here. So I went to Chicago, I don't know, maybe 2013 or 2014 for work. And I was like at 23, 24, and my coworker at the time was maybe like 3 years older than me, and he was a big whiskey guy. And so we found this really cool bar called Untitled, and it was like in the basement, but it was a big whiskey bar and a burlesque bar. That's a story for a different time.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was the kind of thing where they had two sidebars once you got downstairs, and it like had maybe 10 feet of like high of whiskey. So it was like to the point where the top shelf, the bartender had to like pull one of those ladders that slide like a library.
That's a legit place. Yeah.
Right. So again, I was young, didn't appreciate it, but like my coworkers sitting there talking to this bartender about like Pappy Van Winkle, and this bartender's awesome and giving him little sips for free of all these whiskeys that he's always wanted to try. And so, I'm sitting there like an idiot, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a drink, right? I can't get a vodka here. So I was like, oh, whiskey sour. I've drank whiskey sour.
Throw you out on the street.
Right.
So have a vodka. Someone's breaking a bar stool over your back and dragging you on the street.
So I'm like, okay, whiskey sour. And the guy's like, oh, great. Well, what kind of whiskey? Again, never. What do you mean? What kind of whiskey?
Brown
rye or
like
bourbon?
And Blinders.
And I'm at this point again. I'm like, oh, I don't know. What do you recommend? Right? I play that card, and he's like, oh, okay. Why don't we do this rye? And he's like, top shelf. And I was like, no, whatever rail. Okay. So he starts making it, and without asking me the first time, he starts cracking an egg. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Because I didn't know that was a thing. I'm thinking like I've seen it in like Rocky, him eating raw eggs, but I always believed that would really make you sick. There's no way it's a thing. But I don't say anything because I'm trying to play it cool, and clearly it's a thing. And it was lovely. So if you guys aren't familiar, an egg white doesn't really have a taste to it in a whiskey sour, but it makes it smooth.
Yeah, froths it up a little bit.
Right. It froths it, and it really takes a bit of the bite. And I know some people love the bite of rye whiskey. I'm not one of them. So it really kind of took that bite out of it, and I loved it. And then from there on, I was like, I mean, how weird is it for me to get like 4 of these with eggs in
it? And even you're going to look like Rocky. You're just going to be like totally yoked after you come home from the bar. Yoked. You see what I did there?
Yeah. Okay. But pun intended.
No, I think that's a big thing. Like, if you're going to try, and I definitely recommend trying the like Templeton Sour recipe, because this is like, I guess I haven't had a lot to compare to. Like I stay away from the sours, but this is fantastic. Don't be intimidated by the recipe. Don't be don't be intimidated by the egg. Don't be intimidated by, not having a strainer. It's super cheap to go get it. I didn't even use a shaker. I used a mason jar. Like, just try.
There's workarounds.
Yeah. And like for me, I forgot the simple syrup. I went out and just used some maple syrup, and it tastes really good. So, and it doesn't taste sour. Like that's the thing. It's, if the name is throwing you off, like you're thinking like, I want a sour drink. It's not. It's very, very smooth. It's sweet. And it's delicious.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and post the recipe on Instagram. That way everyone can see it. Everyone can take a crack at it.
Yeah. That's a good call.
See what I did there?
All right.
A little crack at it. I like that too. We're full of it. I don't know. Maybe we should record at night more often.
We're buzzing.
We're buzzing right now. All right. Well, let's transition into college football. It was, like we've talked about, it was a hell of a weekend for college football. Why don't we start off with recapping a couple of the games that we, other than the ones we mentioned last episode,
Yeah,
that we are excited for. I know, Mike, you kind of have us lined up here, so why don't we talk through some of the things that we saw this weekend?
Yeah, and like from a gambling perspective, it was all like from week 0 up until Thursday, it was all going so well. Like when Ohio State and Minnesota was close, I doubled down on Ohio State because I just, when you could see, like they had a couple plays in that game where it was just like one pass went to the house for 80 yards, and so you just knew that Ohio State had the ability to break away. And then, I was full of optimism going in the weekend. I actually did bet on Sparty, who covered. Great win for Sparty on Friday. Saturday, I was feeling really good. And I should mention though, before we go onto the weekend, I couldn't bet because in Virginia you can't bet Virginia college teams. Virginia Tech pulling off that upset, like UNC. What a poor performance for Howell, like 17 for 32, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Like I don't think anyone expected that offense to struggle that much.
No, I will say for that game, which I watched because that was one of my bets that I had favorited for our Instagram, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. But Virginia Tech, I think, is better than people think. But with North Carolina, with Howell being, a preseason Heisman candidate, and I know they're replacing a few pros, but they definitely have some of the horses there with Mac Brown, and they looked terrible.
No,
Virginia Tech
yeah,
had them on the ropes from the get-go.
Yeah.
The fans at Virginia Tech, and we'll get more into fans that were great and fans that disappointed me in a little bit, but those fans with Enter Sandman is their tradition coming into the stadium. That place was buzzing.
I thought that was the best part of this weekend, was just seeing the fan. Like we had some great games. Like there was a lot of close calls, but like seeing the fans do their things with Enter Sandman, jump around at Wisconsin. Like I can't wait for Alabama to go home and hear Dixieland Delight again. Like it was just so good seeing fans back. And like, that's what everyone was talking about on the broadcast too, but it really was like awesome to see. Like you missed that so much last year in COVID year.
So I think one of the things you guys keep bringing up is who's back, which teams are back, who's actually back in it for real, who's not, who's kind of an imposter. Who's really back is the fans. That's the best part, I think.
For sure.
The fans,
you don't have a team. There's no team that's back this year more than the fans.
Well,
No.
Texas is absolutely back. Like,
but there's a flip side to that though, because I don't think their fans are back. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there in the recap of that game. But no, Joe, you're 100% right. It was. I don't know if it's something where you just take it for granted. And it's been 2 years now since we've even seen it on TV, and the places that have great fans, it just comes through in the broadcast. Like you just can't hide it.
Yeah.
And it was great. Absolutely great.
It was an awesome weekend. And I always like week 1, you're still trying to figure out teams. And I also give a lot of credence to, like, I don't put too much emphasis on week 1 results because you have so much time to prepare for that opponent, right? Like,
Sure.
And I think Ohio State, Minnesota, I think Minnesota is a little underrated coming in the season. Ohio State maybe a little overrated, but at the same time,
Yeah,
PJ Fleck had all the time in the world to prepare for this.
Well, he was busy running sprints.
Yeah, right. PJ Fleck looked great on the sideline. I mean, we posted on our Instagram. We are a pro PJ
4'8", 4'9".
Oh God, incredible getaway sticks on the lad. He looked incredible.
And a tie.
Oh yeah, and tie and a core zip. So good. Yeah. But no, it was a great. I mean, like Oklahoma against Tulane. Like Tulane had all the time in the world to prepare for that. They were, probably emotionally invested from their situation. It was supposed to be a home game, and then it got moved. But like, so I know that like they had a lot of time to prepare for that. Oregon, a close call. Maybe they're looking ahead to Ohio State. Iowa State barely pulling it out, and then like just some of the upsets. None were really too surprising, but I really thought that Penn State-Wisconsin game was just like a perfect way to kick off college football at noon. Like what an epic game that was.
That's just classic Big Ten football right there.
It was a lot of fun. The fans at Camp Randall, which is one of the hardest places to play, they came to play, And honestly,
any fan in particular that you're talking about, or
you know what? No, no, but there is a fan that I will call out when we get to the Clemson Georgia game, because I think I sent the video, but it was yeah. There's
was that Georgia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought it was Wisconsin. I know what you're talking about. I was trying to bait you there.
Yeah.
It's the red.
Yeah. So the other upsets, so Penn State, Wisconsin, we have UCLA over LSU, which kind of gets me into the question that I've been thinking for a while, and Mike's not going to like this, but I mean, you got to start thinking, is Coach O a fraud? I mean, I love the dude. I love his story. But I mean, you really got to think now, was that 2019 championship just a lightning in a bottle, perfect storm of, your Joe Burrows, your Jamar Chases, your Joe Brady's? Because ever since then, they have looked not great. And UCLA I think they're a decent team. I don't think it was like a huge, it's a Power 5 team. They were on the road at the Rose Bowl, but
listen,
I mean, they got beat pretty soundly.
The one thing you need to know about UCLA is every once in a while, I forget that Chip Kelly even exists. Yeah. Like that's all I have to say about UCLA. Coach O, EJ, I mean, it hurts my heart to hear what you have to say about Coach O. Like,
it's just honest, man.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it's Coach O, man. Like, you don't know what he's saying. He's full of passion. The guy walks in the sun every day. Ray Baker, hang out with his buddy. Like, he's also gone through some personal stuff over the last year that's been pretty terrible for him. And like, I love Coach O. I wish him the best. I don't wish him that much success. I wish him second place in the SEC West every year. But yeah, I mean, that was tough. I stayed away from that game because I wasn't sure what we were going to get. But I did not think that we were going to get that. Like,
in his defense, UCLA does, every couple of years, I feel like they bounce back. Like, and same to be said in basketball too. Like, look at them in the NCAA tournament last year.
Yeah,
that's true.
They're kind of not a sleeper. I don't know if I want to call them a sleeper, but they just consistently are decent. And then every once in a while, they'll just kind of hit you.
Yeah, I think you're getting to the point now, and I don't know how the SEC realignment is going to happen once Texas and Oklahoma come back, or not come back, but join the SEC in 2025. But you're getting to a point now where it's LSU starting to fall further and further behind in the West. You have teams like A&M is looking like a real team and is going to continue to get prospects.
Yeah, Jimbo's
it's not like you're fighting people to go to LSU. So you're starting, and then you're going to add Texas and Oklahoma into the mix, and you still have your Ole Misses and your Mississippi States who have good coaching. So we'll see if they take a step forward, but you just feel like LSU is just starting to fall back, and there's really no excuse, especially coming off, because they do usually have really good classes and prospect classes. And then, you're coming off a national championship, and I don't know. I feel like it's danger zone,
Well, shifting away from teams that are in the danger zone to teams that made statement wins this week.
For sure.
Bama, Bryce Young looking incredible. I mean, no one relocks and reloads like they do. 344 yards and 4 touchdowns for the young lad. The best quarterback to come out of Major D, according to his coach. And then another Bama connection, Mike Loxley has Talia Tungavailoa throwing that ball all over the yard. Maryland just kicks the crap out of West Virginia. Talia had over 300 yards and 3 tuds. And then the game I picked last week, there were some other, big notable wins like USC. I thought that was a strong win for them. Like, definitely could have been a game where they're looking ahead and not paying attention, but they handled business. Yeah. Iowa obviously played well, but Texas, man, Texas is back. Hudson Card over 200 yards and 2 tuds. Bijan Robinson over 100 yards and a tud with 4 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown in the air. And then Jordan Whittington over 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean, they are looking great. Steve Sarkisian has that offense humming. Mm-hmm. I think I didn't bet the game because I was concerned, Levi Lewis, had a really good past couple of years. I think they returned every star on the offense. He definitely struggled. I guess struggled a little bit. Honestly, he had a pretty solid game, but Louisiana as a whole, I think struggled, but Texas did what they did. They had a non-Power 5 team come to their house and they just shut them down. And that's what you're looking for in a program that's looking to take a step forward. I don't know if they're at that, because I think we were talking about this a little bit this weekend, right? And I think that there's only, Bama's maybe the only team where there's no question mark. I think everyone else has some type of a question mark here and there.
Yeah, I'll be real excited to see what the polls come out with this week.
Yeah,
I know, kind of. Yeah, offline, Mike and I were on Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. So and we jumped the gun there, but giving Joe a hard time because Joe didn't really think Ohio State looked like the number 1 or number 4 team in the nation. And he's a Michigan fan, so he even said so up front. You got
to caveat
bias, but after watching these top 10 teams, I would argue Alabama was probably the only one that really looked like they belonged. Everyone else looked meh.
That's what I mean.
There's
I think
in the armor.
Yeah, I think this with the playoff picture, the top 4 people are going to make it. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see who this early on. Yeah, sure, it's not going to be set, but it'll be interesting to see who they rank where this early based on week 1. Because I have no idea. I mean, I could see you're probably going to get your big 4. They're going to sit pretty still. I think Clemson will be the biggest guess for where did they go?
How far can they drop? I mean, Georgia was ranked number 5, so I don't see them going that. If anything, maybe Georgia and Clemson switch places.
Yeah, I think they'll be top 10, but I don't think they're going to drop any lower than 10.
Well, the good news for them is no one below them really made a huge statement unless the committee's going to really start to take someone like Cincinnati for real. And seriously. And I just don't know. I don't know what their schedule looks like if Cincinnati is going to play anyone that can help them get in. But they did put themselves in for a bid, kind of getting off track here to join the
I saw that.
Big 12. So that's a positive thing for them.
UCF,
Houston, and BYU.
Got it. Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be good for them. And but when I look at the teams as a whole, kind of like going back to how everyone looked, and especially Texas too, like when I look at Alabama, like they have guys, they don't just have one receiver, right? And they don't just have one running back. Texas, like Bijan Robinson was great. I think he can take them super far. Hudson Card looked good, but like Whittington was their only real receiver. Like if you can shut him down, I mean, granted, you still have a good run game with Robinson, and Sark is obviously one hell of an offensive coordinator and a great offensive mind. I think he'll be able to do things for him, but like, maybe they'll be able to win the Big 12. Like, I think that's not out of the realm of possibility, but like,
I mean, not what the way Oklahoma looked like.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
or Iowa State.
Yeah. Yeah. Those, and we'll find out more about Iowa State here in their big matchup this week.
Yeah, the last thing I kind of want to touch on with Texas and Louisiana, which was Mike, it was your game you were looking to highlight. As good as Texas looked, Hudson Card sounds like a Texas quarterback.
I forgot about that. It's how does Texas keep getting these guys with the perfect names for a quarterback?
I mean, it's a prereq.
Right. Yeah, it's like the whiskers and the whiskeys part of this. Like you just kind of have to have the right name. I mean, Huddy for Tutties. It's just perfect, right? His name was
actually Jim Smith before he committed to Texas. He had to legally change his name. Mm-hmm. They have the boosters have a big like wheel that they spin, and like whatever your first and last name combo is, you have to change your name. Colt McCoy was actually was not Jim Smith. All right,
it was Jim Brown.
Yeah, Jim Brown. My
like, no, that's not going to work. Too common, not traditional.
I will say I was pretty disappointed, and I was definitely texting Mike about this because we like Texas because of our main man Matthew McConaughey. What's his position again?
The MOC, the Minister of Culture.
The Minister of Culture. Texas fans, one, didn't sell out the stadium, or at least they didn't put a sellout as far as like people in the stands, and honestly, they were quiet. Based on listening to Virginia Tech's crowd, Wisconsin's crowd, and even tonight, I watched a little bit before we got on here of Florida State and Notre Dame. And mind you, Florida State is not good, hasn't been good for a while. Those fans, at least on the broadcast, and I will caveat it there. Like, obviously, I know it's just I wasn't there. Based on the broadcast, blew Texas's fans out of the water, and that hurts me to say. but
I have 2 questions for this game.
Yes.
I didn't catch this one. So for question number 1, was McConaughey there for the game?
I didn't see him. I
gonna
know
say
Austin.
yes. Austin
FC had a game, but I don't think they were at home.
Listen, I'm not putting any blame on Matt.
No.
Clearly stating.
So where I'm going with this is question 2. If you're a student, then you go to Texas. You're going to the game just to see him, right? If you don't give a shit about this game, you don't care about Texas football, you're going to see him, right?
Yeah.
Listen,
and you're joining
so
his class.
how is it? Yeah. So how? Yeah. Or going to the game trying to get into his class. Yeah.
I put zero blame on the minister of culture. Nothing but respect for my minister. People of Austin, I'm speaking directly to you. What in the world are you doing? You're embarrassing your minister. You're embarrassing your school. Show up, show out, bring the energy, bring the passion. Green lights, baby. Hook them. Let's go.
I mean, honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was when Kirk Herbstreit tried to throw Michigan under the bus and say, like, with their fans and how they show up, but they have better things to do, basically calling like the South hillbillies in a nice way of saying it, right? Where the South doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know who he was going after with that one.
I don't know.
Everyone.
But that's what made me think of Texas, is like Austin's a great city. I've never been, Mike. I know you have and had a blast.
Love Austin.
Austin's a great city. Austin's continuing to grow with a million things. I don't know if people just had better things to do. And that hurts, because it's not like they were playing some, FCS school. It was a ranked opponent. And, I don't know. I was disappointed.
Austin is a fantastic city. Shout out to Dan Jurgel, one of our dedicated listeners, and excellent bachelor party in Austin, Texas. And yeah, there is a lot to do, but there's not. If I was a student of Texas, or I just lived in Austin, like there would be nothing on my Saturday plate but going and watching the Longhorns stomp a mud hole and walk dry in Louisiana. So do better next time. Hook them, baby. Green lights. Don't let your minister of culture down.
It's like Texas might be your game of the week this week.
I might just do it every week until they're not back anymore. They're back. So
moving on
the
to
fans are back.
Yeah. To your game that you highlighted or were excited for was Penn State, Wisconsin. Yeah. That was a game that I watched from start to finish. I thought Wisconsin really kind of blew it.
Yes. So I was back and forth between my Wolverines and then that game, because they were at the same time.
Yeah.
So one thing I highlighted was Graham Mertz, and what did it come down to at the end? Mertz throwing a pick. Yeah. And just didn't have it. So I don't know if that's good for Michigan or bad for Michigan. I think both teams defensively kind of showed that they were there, but offensively, I don't think either of them really did anything.
I mean, Wisconsin just
kind of like Georgia Clemson.
Wisconsin blew it. They left so many points on the field. Yeah.
Like blocked field goal, fumbles in the red zone.
Yeah. You can't be turning the ball over in the red zone. I mean, just missing field goals, like easy field goals.
I think the good news is for us listening here, or for us, and then hopefully people listening outside of Columbus, is it gave me a little hope that both those teams, especially given a little bit more time to get their offenses figured out, especially Penn State. I feel like Wisconsin's offense looked fine. They just shot themselves in the foot. Penn State's looked okay, got better as the game went on, but they look like they can compete with potentially Ohio State, because Ohio State's defense looked awful against Minnesota.
Yeah, they were atrocious.
So I don't know. The good news is these guys at least look like they could potentially, win in Indy, or potentially leave Ohio State out of Indy. But I guess we'll see. Yeah. Fans brought it though. The fans with the jump around tradition, which was awesome. I highly recommend you guys, the listeners, to Google the footage of it. So before the fourth quarter of every game, they play jump around and at the stadium, and they go crazy.
What do they do?
They jump real high.
Oh, jump around. Okay.
Do they jump around, or up and down, or where were we jumping here?
And even before that, they would always, like when the commercial cut back, to the game, they were heard singing "Build Me Up Buttercup," and you could hear it clear as day on the broadcast. And also Mr. Brightside, like the fans at Camp Randall really brought it. It was great.
Yeah, that was. awesome game. And like I said, just couldn't have asked for a better way to start off Saturday with that rivalry there.
And then my game, Clemson, Georgia. I just want to start off and say, how great was it to see Coach Corso? I will say, and we've talked about it before. We kind of talked about it on episode 2 when we were talking about the old Oaken bucket, but he's obviously, especially after his stroke, hasn't quite been the same. But he at least for that last pick was the coach of old. I mean, he just looked great. He sounded great. He hit the fans with the not so fast, my friends, and tricked them when he build it up like he was going to pick Clemson, and then, put on that "You're the Dog" Bulldogs head on. It was great to see him.
It was classic Sunshine Scooter, man. And I loved, if you don't follow Kirk Herbstreit on Instagram, you should, especially for during the season when him and Coach are together. He'll get him to tell a story. And this week's story was actually really excellent because he was talking about whenever he was coaching back at Indiana, and they, who were they playing? Purdue. Yeah. And he was saying how they were losing at halftime, went to the locker room and said, listen, we can go home right now, just forfeit the second half, or you can go out there and have the greatest comeback in Indiana football history. Left the locker room, went to the sideline, sitting there by himself, told the referee's like, Coach, what are we doing? And of course, has like, call up the commissioner of the Big Ten. We forfeit if these guys don't come out of the locker room. They came out of the locker room fired up, ended up having the biggest comeback in the history of Indiana football. And it was just awesome seeing him, because with those guys who are older, like especially like Coach Corso, who's, obviously he's had the stroke and everything, and you wonder if the guy's still with it. The way he talked about that game, and he's saying 58 seconds left on the 17, and like calling out each detail and each player, like it happened yesterday. It's just incredible, that kind of a football mind that could just call stuff out. It was just so awesome seeing. And yeah, game day was fantastic. Anytime you get a student just dumping a vat of mayo onto him and slathering it all over his body, I mean, that's what college football is all about, baby. That's why we love it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the game went, I mean, both offenses looked terrible. They had a ways to go. And if you're Georgia, even though you come away with the victory, that's not a good sight, because, I mean, although JT Daniels only played, I think, like the last 3 or 4 games of last year, and you're breaking in a new coordinator last year and Todd Monken, like it didn't look great. And I get it. Clemson and Georgia's defenses are fantastic.
Sure. But you know who disappointed me the most was your throwing Samoan.
I know.
He couldn't hit anything.
Yeah, DJ.
At the end, he had maybe a 40 yard pass, which kind of gave them hope, that final drive. And it just wasn't there. Nothing. He wasn't getting, he wasn't holding in the pocket. He wasn't getting anyone to open, and he wasn't using his legs. He could have ran a few times and taken off for a first down, and he just didn't.
Yeah, DJ Uiagalelei did not look good. I mean,
I don't think Clemson's good. Yeah, I mean, but the offensive line looked terrible. The breaking,
they didn't help him.
Back. No,
that goes to my disappointing. That goes to my point earlier, though, is that this is the first game of the season, and Brett Venables and Kirby Smart are two of the best defensive minds in all of college football, and they had so much time to prepare for this game. So that's kind of like, if these teams meet again, I expect it to be a totally different game. I do expect it to be like more high scoring, not like a crazy high scoring game, but like when you give those two guys all that time to prepare, like that's kind of what you expect.
That's a double-sided, a sword, or, the offense has also had the same amount of time to prepare. It's not like Venables and whoever the Georgia defensive coordinator, it's not like they're not breaking in new systems. I mean, I just thought, again, with Clemson, you can give them a little bit of a pass because, DJU is still young, only played in a couple of games. They really didn't have too much returning on offense. But I mean, if you're Clemson, you're lucky that the ACC, everyone, shit the bed beside Virginia Tech. Yeah. So you have a break there. But if you're Georgia, you got the win, so your playoff hope's still alive. But I don't think they should.
Are you happy with that win? Are you happy with that win?
I think you are. I mean, the defenses. I think we agree. Both defenses played great. I mean, maybe the offense. I think it's all has to do with the fact you give Brett Venables and Kirby Smart so much time to prepare, that was bound to happen. Like, honestly, that's what I think. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. I don't think this hurts Clemson that much. I think that they can still go on to win the ACC and make the playoff. I think that Georgia, no, but one thing it does say to me with both of those teams, based on the offenses that we saw, like, granted, I'm trying to give them a little, cut them a little bit of slack, but man, if that's the best your offense can do, you can't keep up with Alabama because they're going to just pour it on you, man. Like,
well, that's like EJ said. Like, I don't think at this point, after seeing what I saw week 1, I don't think anybody can.
No, this is going to be last year all over again because Oklahoma looked terrible, even though their defense was supposed to be revamped. Georgia and Clemson's offenses are way behind, and Georgia really doesn't have an excuse for that, and that's not good. And then Bama, I mean, it's not like Bama was playing no one. I mean, Miami is a team that is ranked for a reason because they do bring a lot of starters back, including their quarterback, and Alabama made them look like a high school team. So sure, Clemson could make the playoff. Maybe Georgia makes it, maybe as the 4th team. Ohio State maybe makes it by default because no one in the Big Ten can compete. None of them are national champion contenders. Like,
do we know any fans of the U that might be willing to come on or not anymore?
I was texting Chris, who we have brought up before and will eventually be on here. And
I don't know if he's coming on now.
He was hoping for them to cover the spread, which was like 17. Obviously,
I think it closed at 20 right before the game.
He was hoping for them to at least do that.
I think you know your answer when you're hoping that they cover the spread.
Right. This was probably second quarter, and then he was like, I just hope we come out with no injuries. So
okay, that's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But sorry, I will
Chris.
say, last thing to say about this game before we move on is, again, I don't know if I just had an ear for it and was so mad at Texas, but I mean, this was a neutral site, 50-50 fans, and both fan bases were louder than anything Texas gave.
Oh, it was awesome. It was incredible atmosphere. And that's what we're here for, man. Like, it was so good to see the fans there just doing their things, man. It was awesome. That was I thought that Penn State, Wisconsin was a great way to start. And then Georgia and Clemson, like, what a great nightcap.
Yeah, a couple of quick things here before we move on. I just loved, I kept an eye out, and we had kind of talked about this offline, jerseys and some things that we could talk about. It's just a couple of things caught my eye, just quickly, a couple of things. One, I love Penn State's whites. Yeah. I think they're just so sharp with the helmet, which is great because it has a thin blue stripe. It's not a big stripe. Those looks just yeah, the white helmet with the thin blue stripe. They look so good. Loved Minnesota's black jerseys with their matte helmets with their dark maroon helmets.
It said row on the front. That was awesome.
Yep, and it had Ski-U-Ma on the back, on the little back piece. Ski-U-Ma. That was great. And then on the flip side, Northwestern's blacks looked terrible.
Which is, like, I really liked.
I think from a distance it looked good, but once you zoomed in, like the font gold, and then the shoulders, like it was kind of all over the place.
Good, though I love the cursive on that looked really, really good.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that one. Yeah. So I liked the EJ. I think we talked a little bit about this. Yeah. I like the cursive on the helmet. That's a classic look. The basketball teams kind of use that as well, but you got to match.
Yeah,
the jerseys had their I don't know what you call that font, but it's kind of
just their normal one.
Yeah, the new age font, but it didn't match. Like, how hard is it to match? Look at Oregon; they've got a different jersey for every half, and you just got to match.
Also, all respect in the world to Penn State for wearing white before Labor Day. Can't pull that off next week.
You can't. Yeah, you can't look at the schedule.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I love the helmet. I love that Mel Tucker is a breath of fresh air. I love Mark D'Antonio, but he was very old school, especially when it comes to stuff like jerseys and style. And Mel Tucker's definitely improving Michigan State on that, which they have a classic jersey, classic color combo. But I agree. I think if you're going to bring out like the McGruff helmets and the script helmets, get a jersey to match it. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be those ugly neons, but
and there's no rules. restricting anything with that, right? Look, I mean,
No.
look at Oregon. Yeah.
Maybe.
Also-
I don't know if you have to like submit it before a certain time, and they just kind
Well,
of
I think we'll give him a pass. It's what, year 2 for him?
Also,
be 1.5.
Speaking of colors, not just jerseys, but colors. I hate to do this to my guy, but Coach O walking into the game, talking. There's a UCLA fan chirping him, and he goes, "Yeah, bring that on down here in your sissy blue shirt," and then to go out and put up that performance, coach. That's not great. Not great.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't a good look for Coach O. But okay, and I just want to give a quick shout out here. I noted it. Loved Charlotte getting their first win over a Power 5 conference in school history, beating Duke, which was really cool. I know UTSA, Texas or Tennessee also beat Vanderbilt. Not a surprise, but it was their first win again over a Power 5 conference. And I think it was the first time an SEC school lost to like an FCS school in like SEC history. So yeah, that wasn't great. Okay, why don't we move on here? I know we've talked a lot about football.
It is a football podcast.
So one thing I want to note here, and we can quickly talk about this, but you guys may have noticed that we posted on Saturday morning our favorite college football bets of the weekend. And
we sure did.
So this is something that we're going to continue to do. So please make sure that you check out our posts on Saturday mornings when you're watching game day, when you're thinking about the bets you're going to place. Check our Instagram. We're going to post our favorites that we like that weekend, and make sure you also respond to our post with your favorite bets, and we'll make sure to give you a shout out to the people that send us their favorite bets that end up winning.
Yeah, so, and hey, just to clarify, we're not experts here. Like we do the best we can.
Mike thinks he is, but
well, yeah, we saw how that went for me this week, boys. Not great. Well, and I really need to just put a lock on my phone because like it really would have. I think I actually checked because I use FanDuel and I use Barstool, and I would have come out even, but I had a couple teasers that I really liked and they all died. And then
you chased that over, didn't you?
Sure did. I sure did. I'm like,
I told you not to.
Oh yeah, put some money on the over, put some money on Clemson when they went down. I'm like, surely Clemson will come out in the second half. DJ Uiagalelei has that Dr. Pepper money now. He's going to come out fired up. He sure didn't.
Bojangles and who knows what else.
No.
Nope. So let's give out our first shout out, which is to Jimmy Conklin. He sent us his favorite pick, which was Rutgers -14. And it was a great weekend for him betting. Unfortunately, he told me today that he thinks he tore his Achilles. So that's not great. He
can pay for his surgery now.
Right. And he did say the good news was that he can now be lazy and watch more NFL and college football. So shout out to Jimmy for sending us his pick and for winning that Rutgers -14. So just to stick here quickly to finish off this gambling section here, there was heartbreak everywhere. I know in College Station, there was one where Kent State was given 29.5 points. And with 2 seconds left, they had a 25-yard field goal, which would have helped them cover. And the guy totally shanked it. So it was total heartbreak for the people that bet the Kent State plus 29.5, but pure, joy and elation for the A&M people who bet them -29.5.
Yeah, and I took Bama and Miami the over. I'm like, surely I took it at 60. I'm like, surely Bama will score 50. And then it was looking good. And then they just took their foot off the gas. They put in Paul Tyson. I'm like, the great grandson of Bear Bryant. Surely he'll get a touchdown. Nope, sure didn't. And Miami just didn't hold up their end of the bargain on that one. That was miserable. The other over I took big for the FAU. That one missed, which I thought that was a lock. And then, but I will say, good teams win. Great teams cover, and the Arizona Wildcats are a great team. Had them at 12.5. They lost by 12. Let's go, Arizona Wildcats. Love it. Love to see it. Things you love to see.
The lock that I thought we had was The Alabama game.
Yeah, that
was that boost.
Yeah, that was the boost. That was
Alabama, Miami. I think it was Alabama won by 14 plus, and then they had to get over 60 points over.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up again, Joe. If you just want to keep mentioning,
I lost money too.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's really Miami's fault.
It really is.
You can't score at the end like that. Come on, game's over. Just pack it up, leave.
All right, moving on.
Score. No, don't pack up and leave. Score.
All right, so
get off the bus.
Let's get into this episode now. So today we're going to talk about the Hawkeye State's own Cyhawk Trophy. So this trophy is given between the winners of the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Iowa State Cyclones,
which is going to be a hell of a game this week.
Yes, it is. And I will say ahead of time here, of the 4 rivalry games that we've discussed thus far, or this is the 4th now, this very well has been one of the ones that I've enjoyed doing the research for. And I think this actually might be one of the best rivalries that we've covered so far, even though the results have been a little one-sided.
And don't bury the lead here. It's also the first one where it's going to be occurring during the week that we talk about it.
Yes, it is.
What news did we just find out right before we hopped on?
Well, I mean, I was going to give it to him at the end. Let's just, they don't know what it is
yet. Little sizzle, a little teaser for them.
We're going to preview the game at the end. So why don't we, we'll save it for that.
I will save my thoughts because I have some thoughts on Iowa and Iowa State and their matchups from this week. So,
that's going to be. We can cover that at the.
I think I can fill this in. Both teams will be losing us money. That's the that's the update.
Yes. So let me give you guys some fun facts here before I get into the history. So
I love fun facts.
This is the only trophy in college football that has a corporate sponsor.
Oh,
so the trophy's sponsored. Can you guys guess who sponsors it?
It's like a bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's got to be a local.
Templetons.
No.
I'm
guessing this has been around longer than that, though.
So, what do you think? It's going to make sense. What
corn
would want
potatoes?
Yes.
Corn, yes.
The Iowa Corn Growers Association. So it is technically the Iowa Corn Cyhawk Trophy.
I love that. That is so perfect.
Yeah. I feel like that's more fitting for Nebraska.
I know at the Cornhuskers, but Iowa also has a lot of corn growers, a lot of farmers.
Okay. Take your word for it.
Can't confirm. I've been to Iowa. Can't confirm. They do have corn.
The next fun fact is this game had a 43-year hiatus, followed by 42 years of annual battles before that streak was broken last year because of COVID.
Why was it split? Because of conferences? Because of Iowa?
We will get to that. Don't you worry. 43 years.
I can't wait. 43-year hiatus. Holy cow.
So, and the last fun fact here is the dimensions of the trophy are 16 inches in width, 16 inches in length, and 12 inches in height. So, Mike, Joe, what are your first impressions of the trophy?
Scrolling down to it now. Oh, I really like it.
At first glance, I feel like it looks kind of like, I don't know why, maybe a basketball trophy. Maybe the base.
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
squared,
like
right?
a cube. Yeah.
It's a big square base with plaques on it. I can see that the Iowa and Iowa State, there's like a emblem, like their emblem is on there
on each side. Yeah.
Base. And then there's plaques, I assume, from the different years, the victor, and that says University of Iowa, Iowa State University. And then it's just like a big big piece of wooden square with the plaques on it. And then at the top of it, what's really cool, it's like, is that corn?
It sure is. I was gonna
in the background.
That's awesome. Okay, so it's like it looks like a little diorama. It's a bronze diorama with the Iowa and Iowa State logos, a massive mascots, a massive football at the top, and then like the background of the diorama is corn stalks. That is cool as hell. And then it has the Iowa Corn Growers Association, and then the Cyhawk Trophy.
Yeah, and I think that's the shape of the state itself.
Yeah, that is the shape of Iowa. Yeah, that's a cool trophy. But you're right, Joe. Big basketball vibes is what I get from this.
So if anyone's looking at this trophy, look at between the two birds on the top. The C, between the C and the K on the western side of the state is right where Templeton is.
If you're wondering.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I forgot to ask you that. I was curious on where that was.
So yeah, it's kind of it's right between like Des Moines and Omaha, a little bit north of those two. So yeah.
It's a cool trophy though. I like it a lot. What's Iowa State's? So they're the Cyclones. What's their bird though?
That's a good question. I probably should have looked into that.
That's all right. We got the Google.
Hawkeye?
Yeah. Why don't you? While I'll give you guys the history of the rivalry. Mike, why don't you look at that?
Cy the Cardinal.
Oh, he's a Cardinal.
Are you guys ready?
So it's a Cardinal and a hawk.
Are you talking about the mascot or the state bird?
Oh, the mascot for Iowa State.
I got the state bird if you want that too.
Yes.
Is that the Hawkeye?
It's the American goldfinch.
So what? This is a very confused state. They got.
Well, they are the Hawkeye state, so that is what their nickname is. So that's why.
Why is it Golden Finch? Terrible movie, by the way. That movie came out a couple of years ago. It's an absolute disaster. What's going on with birds in this state?
Don't know.
What was Cardinal, a hawk, a golden finch? What's going on here? There's no consistency. I guess they couldn't have. Well, I don't know. Man, one of these schools should really hopped on renaming the state bird there. That's
yeah.
So
a little bit about this history. So the first matchup between these two schools was in 1894, and Iowa State won that game 12-8. A very exciting game back then.
Real barn burner, yeah.
Yeah, and then Iowa State actually opened the series with 3 straight wins. But unfortunately for the Cyclones, that ended up being the second longest winning streak against Iowa in the history of the rivalry.
Yeah, they came out like gangbusters.
Sure. So conversely, Iowa's longest winning streak in this series is 15 straight wins, which started in 1983 and ended in 1998. So it's definitely been a one-sided. So overall, this series is Iowa leads 45 wins to 22 losses. But since 1988, Iowa only holds a 12-10 advantage. So
that
Iowa
is surprising to me. I would think that even recently Iowa would be smacking that ass, but I guess not.
I think there was a good stretch for Iowa State where they got a lot of the chunk of that 10. So, but I know what you guys are thinking here. An in-state matchup that started in 1894 but only has 67 matchups. Well, that's
almost
definitely
like
weird.
It's almost like a 43-year hiatus.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's definitely a reason for that. So why don't I just get into that for you? So the two schools, played. No, it's probably like the plague or something back then. So the two schools played regularly until 1934, when following an Iowa State 31-6 victory, the Iowa athletic director and head coach at the time did not answer calls to renew the game in the future.
I love it. Just took his ball and went home.
Yep. So then after 1934, the teams would not play again until 1977. And the common
Iowa State just calling, the phone's ringing off the hook. Who is it? I'm washing my hair.
So I feel like this happens every once in a while. So reportedly, the main reason behind this long hiatus is Iowa did not see any advantage to playing Iowa State. Because
if I was getting my ass kicked like that, I wouldn't want to play either.
No. So Iowa didn't want to play Iowa State because they didn't have anything to win. So because Iowa State was so bad, there was no boost in the rankings for beating them, right? There was no big money coming in for that, but there was always the chance that Iowa State would upset them.
There's only downside. There's no incentive there. Yeah.
No incentive. So that was
like playing your little brother.
The biggest. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I was actually going to say the similar thing where for so long, Michigan, there was real no incentive, it'd just be some crazy one-off games, TJ Duckett style, with an extra second added to ruin
it. It is what it is. Like it's if there's no reason to, if you're not going to win, you're only going to look bad, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and if you do win, you're not going to take in money. You're not going to boost your rankings. So
right.
For the people, for the corn growers associations, why this game needs to go on.
Oh, well, Mike, it is so funny that you actually mentioned that. And this is why I love this rivalry since I've gotten to know it, is So what happens next is why I think it's one of the best rivalries. So in the mid 60s, fans and legislators started to turn the screws on the school presidents and athletic directors to renew this series.
Oh.
And so amidst the mounting pressure in 1968, the two schools agreed to renew the series starting in 1977. But the Iowa athletic director in 1968 didn't actually officially sign the contract and just kind of kicked the can down the road to his successor. And so it actually took the governor at the time, who was Robert Ray or Bob Ray, to get the two ADs to officially sign and agree to renew the series.
I love that though. Hey, not my problem, pal. I'm not going to be the one responsible for Iowa looking like a fool. I'm about to retire. I'm out of here. I don't want to spend my Saturdays with people banging on my door. Like, why'd you sign that rivalry with the Cyclones? They just upset us, ruined our national championship hopes. I'm just trying to chill out on Saturdays, drink great tasting West Filling Miller Light, have some corn for dinner, enjoy my leisure time. I love that. I love that. Pass the buck, baby.
Yep. So the state legislators at that time even passed resolutions demanding that the game is to be played. Like it
Holy
was.
Cow.
So basically everyone but the schools wanted this game to be played.
I just don't get it. Like, I feel like the rivalry stuff, like for us in state, I feel like you just got to do it. Like, it's just
right.
I don't know. It's strange.
I think what we've seen throughout the history of this podcast is that athletic directors can be real scumbags.
Yeah.
That's
that
kind of what I've learned.
And your trophy is going to go missing. Let us know, what year did this thing go missing?
It actually didn't, but it has changed a few times for various reasons. So when the agreement was finally reached, because the governor literally had to sit these two guys down, the two ADs, it was only for a 6-year deal. So fearing that the series would be short-lived, a group of fans, these wonderful, beautiful people, devised an idea to get more buy-in from the two schools by designing a trophy that would be given to the victor of the game.
That's the incentive.
But before we get into that, let me paint a picture of what was going on in America in 1977 when this series got released.
I heard Mike. I thought he was going to ask.
Yeah, I could see it in his face
every time.
I mean, right now we are all virtual. I'm in North Carolina at the wonderful beaches, and so I could just see it on Mike's face that he really wanted to know. So
I
just give him what he wants.
I always am so curious. I'm like, this rivalry's great, but like, what was life like in 1977 America?
Well, I think all three of us are currently using multiple Apple products. So Apple Computer was incorporated in 1977.
Oh, look at that. Good for Steve Jobs.
A band that's close to Joe and I's heart, because when the Lions were good, this was kind of their unofficial theme song. But the rock band Toto was founded in 1977. Although Africa was not a hit until 1983, the band was founded. And so kind of a shout out to another one of our friends that lives down south in Miami. But in 1977, snow falls in Miami, Florida for the only time in its history. There's never been snow in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area beside in 1977.
Do you know how much it was?
I do not. I think it was just a couple inches, but it wasn't like
even an inch is a lot in Florida.
Yeah, they're not ready for that.
No, Mike. Here's one that's
really still shut down.
All torqued up, right? So this one's for you, Mike. Fleetwood Mac's Grammy Award-winning album "Rumors" is released
right behind me. You can see I have a Rumors poster back there.
Oh,
shout out Dogface.
Greatest album from shout out Dogface. Or no, what was it? Mad Dog, some 420. I don't know. But yeah,
that's Dogface, huh?
Was it Dogface? I thought he had 420. Anyways, Rumors is front to back the greatest album of all time. And I got the great pleasure of seeing them live in Pittsburgh. And that was such an electric factory of a concert. No Lindsey Buckingham, but they had the lead singer from Crowd House, and they had the lead guitarist from, I'm blanking on his name right now, but Tom Petty's lead guitarist. And they did, oh man, that was such a good concert, because they did Don't Dream It's Over. They did American Girl. I mean, obviously they put all their hits too. Like, it was, oh God, they're so good. Even at their age now, they can still bring it. So,
There it is, 1977. That's when it started.
Quick instant fact check. Dogface 208 double G.
Also,
Ocean Spray.
Also in 1977, Elvis Presley played his last concert. Any guesses which city he performed in his final event?
Nashville.
Vegas.
Nope. Indianapolis.
Oh.
Yeah.
It all comes back to Indy. Always does.
And who participated and won the Super Bowl this year? Well, none other than John Madden's Oakland Raiders. They beat the Purple People Eaters team of Minnesota Vikings 32-14.
Who won the next year?
Who did win the next year?
We're gonna have to wait and see.
That'd be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I assumed so by the way you asked. And the MVP that year for that game was Fred Biletnikoff, and he won the MVP with 4 catches for 79 yards, but he did set up 3 of the Raiders touchdowns with a couple crucial catches. So a very like Julian Edelman-esque performance out of the Hall of Famer.
There's a reason why the best receiver in college football gets the Biletnikoff Trophy every year. So
it sure is. So why don't we get back to the birth of the Cyhawk Trophy here? So kind of what I mentioned earlier, the fans were very concerned that even though they did get the series renewed, it was only for 6 years. So in 1976, a group of just ragtag football fans and graduates of Iowa and Iowa State conceived and created a trophy for the rivalry in an effort to drum up a renewed enthusiasm for the game.
I'm just picturing this mob of like flannel wearing, moonshine swilling college kids just dedicated to getting this rivalry back on track. They want to steal some trophies. They want to poison some water jugs.
They're eating some street corn.
Yeah, they're ready.
Yes.
They're ready to go.
These guys were literally in like a bowling league. Like they were like bowling league beer buddies. Like when I say that these were normal people, these were just normal fans that had no further affiliation with the schools. It's not like it was official alumni board or anything like that. These were just like normal fans.
They were even students. These are just some guys in a bowling. Oh, they were alum. Okay.
They were alum, but they weren't like a part of like an official alumni chapter or association. These were just a couple of guys that were like, listen, we should make a trophy to make this game mean more. And hopefully that will keep the game for longer than these 6 years. I freaking
love these guys.
So
maybe we should start a trophy for our team.
Honestly, yeah. So these guys dubbed themselves the Greater Des Moines Athletic Club.
Hell yeah.
Which draws the inspiration from the Downtown Athletic Club, who is the club that created the Heisman Trophy. So that was kind of their inspiration for that.
GD Mac.
The GDAC.
Yeah.
DM, GD Mac. Yeah, love it.
GD Mac.
So these guys created this trophy as a way to commemorate the game. Yes. And to make it something fans of each school could point to and take pride in. So these group members paid for the trophy and designed it out of pocket. So again, these guys were just like pooled their money, decided to
just
create it and
in a bowling alley, just feet up, just
scroll down, look at the picture. So look at the first picture at the bottom. Oh yeah. So you guys can take a look at what the first Cyhawk Trophy looked like, along with these wonderful individuals.
This is exactly what I thought. This is a corn-fed country boy. He's he dressed up. He's got a polo shirt underneath his t-shirt for this one.
Yeah. Great mustache.
Fantastic mustache and sideburns. Like this guy is definitely, I could see him. He's just pounding schlitzes at the bowling alleys with his buddy. Like, hey, why don't we have a trophy for this game, man?
Yep. So scroll down, only scroll down one more, but scroll down one more picture and you can see him with another one of the beer league buddies with the governor.
Dude, these guys are solid. If I'm the athletic director, I can see why they won. If they all look like this, they look like they look like a cigarette machine with legs. They're like just stocky, beefy dudes. I would piss my pants if I'm athletic director sitting in my office and these guys kick down the door. It spirals off, splinters flying everywhere. They're like, we want Iowa State. We want it every year, and we want a trophy. well, I got to get some funds for the trophy. We got one. We won the league 7 years in a row. We took all the money, we put it towards the trophy and Schlitz.
So, Mike, why don't you give our listeners a description of what this original Cyhawk Trophy looked like?
Yeah, why don't I do that? Wait. So you said that the group that made the Heisman is also
These guys named themselves in inspiration of the official group in New York that created the Heisman. So it was like they thought, okay, so this athletic club in New York created the Heisman. Why don't we create a trophy for our rivalry? Why don't we name ourselves similar to that athletic?
I mean, it's very similar.
Yeah, yes. I asked that question because it is similar. There's a guy doing the Heisman pose on the top of the trophy with a football. A football as big as the player on the other half of the top of the trophy
on the right side.
Yeah, and then it's just a wooden base. It's similar to the other one that it's a wooden square rectangular base with plaques for the winners, and then there's a cool little plaque of the side, the Cardinal and the Hawkeye on it too. So, and this guy again, like just intimidating as it comes. Any athletic director should be terribly afraid. This is a face that keeps athletic directors up.
Strong mustache game.
Oh
yes,
my gosh,
strong.
All of them.
So when they saw the original design, which Mike described, had the engraved images of both team mascots, as well, glaring at each other, as well as the various scores. So once they came up with this kind of idea, that's where the name Cyhawk came from. So Cyclones, Hawkeyes. That's where the inspiration drew from. Not surprising here, but the 1977 game rejuvenated the rivalry and was even bigger than anticipated. So many Iowa State students wanted to make the trip to Iowa City that a lottery was necessary for tickets.
That's awesome.
Right. And so Iowa Governor Bob Ray presented the trophy to
Take notes, Texas fans. Take notes.
So the governor gave the trophy to the victorious Iowa Hawkeyes, who won in a barn burner 12-10.
Wait, are these guys all alums of Iowa or Iowa State?
It was a mix for both.
Okay, mix.
Yep.
Okay.
So honestly, it worked. These fans not only drummed up enthusiasm for that game, but this game got renewed past that 6-year plan and was played consecutively for 42 years up until last year when the game was canceled because of COVID. So these guys, did they play a role in it? I'm going to say 95% of it. But
hell yeah.
So
it's a great story.
I looked at this and I saw, it's 1977. So I see a current day fantasy football trophy. That's kind of what I make of this. It's got the plaques.
Yes.
It's something that you could, for 77, this is pretty good.
Yeah. It's definitely like pretty fancy as a fantasy football trophy goes too.
But they definitely stole from it is the Heisman.
Oh yeah. It absolutely is the Heisman. It's dope, man. I mean, for what these guys just came up with, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. For
they got to meet the governor.
What did that? Do you have a cost? Do you know what they paid for it?
I did not know.
They might not be. I might not be out.
That.
They couldn't spend too much because they still had to buy Schlitz for their beer week. So
right.
I was thinking for 77, this is probably pretty pricey.
Yeah, it probably is.
So this original Cyhawk Trophy lasted from 1977 all the way up until 2010. Huh. So the trophy was retired after the 2010 game and is permanently on display at the Iowa Hall of Pride, in Des Moines. So what was the reason for the change? You guys already know this.
I mean, it's not a cigar store.
Corporate greed.
Oh,
no, corporate greed. So the reason for the change was because of the corporate
the
sponsorship I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and boy, did they mess it up. So why don't you scroll down to the next? So a new trophy was donated by the Iowa Corn Growers Association. Yeah, and this was introduced to the public at the Iowa State Fair on August 19th, 2011.
I would hate to be the guy introducing it. He probably got pelted with corn husks. Holy cow, this thing's atrocious.
Oh yeah. Why don't you guys describe what it looks like? Tell people how terrible this trophy is.
I mean, so
the heads are huge.
The base is the same, right, as the existing trophy.
Yeah, it's square.
the top, it's just the farmer kneeling down next to a bucket of corn with his family. I would assume his wife holding a small daughter and then a son. It's heartwarming, but it's
also
not.
a unfortunate posture and
I
yeah.
see. Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, it's
but also like if
handing
you
corn,
that's what it should be.
that's
so also like if you look at these sculptures of these people, there's 4 people in it, 2 children, looks like a wife and probably a husband. Their heads are massive compared to their bodies.
The kid has a massive head.
Even the kid, I was like, that's an adult head on a child's body, and he's got his hand in his pocket like a. I've never seen a kid sit there with his hand in his pocket like that.
And it's pewter too. Like that part of it at the top is like pewter or silver. So like it looks like crap. It looks like a corn cob made it, and I can just see these beer league bowling guys just being like, that's
Curious.
what they're replacing our trophy with.
Yeah. They're the hats that the little boy and the dad are wearing also are very close to the Sandlot hat. The huge
brim,
small hat.
It's really flirt with that. So the Dean Taylor, the president of the Corn Growers Association, called it, quote, a work of art that represents Iowans and their hard work.
It's art.
This reminds me of the guys from Indiana that turned it in like at the last day, and they're like, oh yeah, this bucket's based on a poem. That's more believable than this piece of crap right here.
Yeah. So
it's got the plaques with looks like the winners, and it's very similar to the previous ones.
So
it says Iowans, football. It says football on the side.
Just in case you didn't realize.
A plaque that just says football.
So that's how you know your trophy's bad, because they're like, we need to put a plaque on here so that they know what this is for. Because like this doesn't say football to me. Like it's just
no.
Also, so do they have one of these for every sport? Like, is this? I'm guessing no, but so why do you need to name?
If the Iowa Corn Growers Association had their way, they probably would have. But they messed this one up. So within hours of this presentation of the new trophy, it was widely ridiculed in newspaper columns on the internet.
So we're pretty spot on here with our assessment.
Yes.
Okay.
So within hours. So Iowa Governor Terry Branstad at the time publicly provided negative feedback. So the governor provided negative feedback. And so did retired Iowa football coach and legend Hayden Fry, who said, quote, the farmer, family, and corn is all wonderful, but I don't really get the relationship to a football game, end quote.
So this reminds me of, like, have you seen those like pranks where I think James Corden did one with David Beckham where they show him
trophies?
Yeah, they show him like a sculpture of himself that's going to be placed at the stadium, and it's horrible. It's a fake one. This is what I would see them showing as like a fake trophy to the teams or to someone and being like, here it is, and just to get their reaction.
Yeah, they roll this out at the fair and everyone's like, good joke. Where's the real one? Like this goes to the guy that grew the best corn this year, right? Like this is not.
That would be fitting.
So how long do you guys think this lasted?
Well, I would say 36 hours.
Yeah. So you have 36 hours. You have a couple of years. Mike, you are very close. Only 4 days later, the Iowa Corn Growers Association's CEO, so not the president who loved it, the CEO, Craig Floss, announced that the new Cyhawk Trophy would be changed as a result of the negative public reaction.
I mean, when the governor's coming out and being like, this is garbage, you have to change. You can't just roll forward with that, especially in Iowa. People take football very seriously there.
Yeah. So the selection of the new trophy would involve public input, like it probably should have all along. And they played with a temporary trophy for 2011. If you guys scroll down, you can see the temporary trophy that they
would
used.
just rolled out the previous trophy. If they ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
So I just scrolled down. It still says football.
It does. And it just in case that wasn't clear enough, the trophy itself, the base is still the same. They just put a football on the top of it with the date of the game.
This is a football.
Yeah.
So this trophy only lasted that 1 year after they had to replace the one. This trophy was just temporary for 2011. So with fan input and the newly redesigned trophy which is the present day Cyhawk Trophy, was unveiled at the conclusion of the 2012 game, which was won by Iowa State in another barn burner 9-6.
You don't even need that much fan input. Just go down to the damn bowling alley. You'll find a couple guys that'll give you a good trophy.
So the one that was the replacement for a year, it's the same. They probably use the same base from the 77 trophy. It's all square, maybe 6 inches tall.
It's got to be the exact same base.
And this has like kind of these holders on top that has a mini football you'd get at like a fair or like a high school football game.
Yeah,
little mini football that has both team logos on it.
The CEO,
that you get like autographs and stuff on.
Yeah.
The CEO of the Corn Growers Association took the previous top home and he used it as
it's on his mantle.
Yeah, right. It's like everyone that comes over to his house is like, what do you think of that up there? Oh, it's a nice statue. What do you think about for a football game? It's great. It would be great, right?
Right.
He probably gets real. He's probably sitting around every evening by the fire, like staring up at that thing on his mantle, just like thinking about it, like just drinking whiskey and thinking about what could have been. Like he's like just muttering to himself, like, I don't get it.
I don't know how much longer he lasted as the president, but of that association. But
he's got that trophy on his mantle.
He has that trophy.
His wife left him. The mantles. It's not even a nice house with the mantle. He had to move into a trailer because like his whole life broke it down because he can't get past this. Just muttering to himself. He's like, what don't they see? This is art. This is art.
It's better than a bucket.
Yeah.
He's like, Indiana has a freaking bucket. I spent millions on getting this.
Yeah, so I will say, I think that the most recent iteration is probably the best one.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the first one just because of the story behind it, but I think they landed on a really good looking trophy that should last, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree.
Years.
The current one's definitely the best.
So that's really it for like the history of the trophy itself. But I did find one other really cool thing that just kind of, again, paints a picture, especially leading up to this game. I don't know if this will get national news, but I thought it was really cool. And it just kind of, again, gives you a little bit of an insight into how much of a rivalry this is for the state, even if, primarily it's been dominated by Iowa.
What do you think it would take for it to get national recognition?
Well, it would probably need both teams to be ranked going into a matchup on nationally televised TV, a nationally televised game, but maybe we can talk about that in a little bit. So in 1995, local sportscaster Keith Murphy wanted to drum up some state pride and ignite the rivalry's fire. So he came up with the idea of RVTV. So RVTV started as a weekly tailgate in Ames, Iowa, in which they would he, as the broadcaster, would stay in his RV behind the stadium. So
this guy just wanted to get away from his wife for a day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, it'll be great. People will love it. I'll see you next week.
So he would literally stay at the stadium the week of, as just a constant tailgate in his RV.
This guy just wanted to get away from his wife.
Just running the cornhole.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
He described his RV at the beginning as looking like Cousin Eddie's from National Lampoon, to paint a good picture here of what it looked like. So he continued this for a while, but eventually the shtick of camping out in Ames or Iowa City wore a little thin. Obviously, he had,
as did his wife's patience.
Right. You would have fans come into his RV, and he would have them broadcast live from there and all this kind of stuff. But it wore thin after a while. So in 2009, Murphy and his crew got the idea to take RVTV on the road. So throughout Cyhawk Week, he wanted to put spotlights on the various towns of Iowa. So RVTV travels to cities throughout the state for some tailgating and fun. It's a pretty cool event that essentially brings a traveling fair type atmosphere to the smaller towns in Iowa, and it gets a lot of state news and gets broadcasted throughout the state. So it kind of allows the small towns to kind of showcase their city and what makes them great. So
this sounds awfully familiar to another type of tradition, another type of weekly show where people get an RV and travel from place to place
Sure.
for football games.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it, but it sounds very familiar.
I think it might be worth bringing up when we talk about the preview of this matchup.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll pocket that. I'll remember it next time. But no, what is this guy's name again?
Keith Murphy.
Props to Keith. And shout out
Props.
Mrs. Murphy for being patient. But that's just a genius way to like hang out with the boys, crush beers for a week solid. That's just fantastic. Good for him.
It's really cool. He still does it. I watched a few of the videos from 2018, 2019, 2020, and it's just everyone gets involved now. So you have like the famous weatherman and women and any of the big media personalities or famous people, famous Iowans, they all get involved, and it's a blast. And
what about small podcasts covering their rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think this would be a very, very, very cool thing to go to and to be involved in. I think, and it's cool because, again, I mean, I've never been to Iowa. I've never really had a desire to go to Iowa.
Buddy.
If I would go to Iowa, it'd probably be Des Moines, Iowa City or Ames. But this RVTV visits a little bit less known cities, and so this isn't going to mean anything to the three of us, but maybe to a listener. But in 2019, the RVTV visited Polk City, Ellsworth, Rockwell City, and Humboldt, Iowa.
Buddy, if you like pork tenderloin sandwiches, great tasting, less filling Miller Lite, and left-hand turning, Iowa is the state for you.
And Templeton Rye.
Shout out Templeton Rye.
We gotta go and see if they're actually distilling there, because
yes,
there's reports,
100%.
but we got to see for ourselves.
So that's going to do it for us with this. So why don't we get to our rankings here?
Let's
so
do
just
it.
A friendly reminder, we rank on a scale of 1 to 5 for looks of the trophy, a scale of 1 to 5 for the history of the trophy, and a scale of 1 to 5 for the rivalry of the trophy, or the rivalry of the games. And then overall, we give it either a bottom tier, middle tier, or top tier. So Mike, what do you think?
So should I run through all of them first? Run through all my. All right,
just go ahead. Run through
looks 5. I mean, this thing's fantastic. I freaking love it. Yeah, it's dope as hell. The original and the new one are both fantastic. Other than that abomination that the corn growers created, I think this is awesome. It has everything. It has the mascots, that little corn in the background. Like it's really cool. History, again, a 5. At any time a bunch of guys at beer league like get a rivalry started up, that's super cool. Love that they kind of took it into their own hands and made it happen. Screw athletic directors, that was awesome. The rivalry itself, since it's been super lopsided and everything, I'm gonna say probably like a 2, because it's just not a really strong rivalry, and it's been real lopsided. So it hasn't been a great rivalry, but this year's edition should be very interesting. And so then overall tier, I'm going to put it high. I really like the rivalry. I love the story, EJ. I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this one, man. This was great.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, so for the looks, I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's it could have some more detail or more authenticity with it. I honestly don't know why they didn't keep the original. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There's no issue with it. So I think that would have been cool to keep. I don't know why they swapped it. So
the corporate sponsorship.
Yeah. Okay. So bullshit.
And the man.
Okay. So even
once
worse.
They gave that up. Yeah, that was the reasoning.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, still a 3. What was the next one you want to go with?
History.
I think I'll give the history a 4. It's kind of cool how they ended it, and then they brought it back, and the people took it into their hands. These guys just took it into their own hands to do it. So I'd give that a 4. And then what was the last one? Overall?
The rivalry.
Yeah, overall rivalry. I'm gonna go 3. I think it's cool that it's in state. I think it's kind of like I would compare it to like the Michigan State. It's not necessarily close, but it's a big rivalry, and it's always a fun game.
So then overall, where do you put it? Yeah. Which tier?
Ooh, I'd probably put this middle tier. I think it's interesting. it's a little bit different. I think it's not one that you're necessarily always tracking, but I think both teams have potential and could be good. And when they are good, it's something that worth watching, worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, this is going to be 4s across the board. So I think 4 for looks. I do like how it incorporates various things in Iowa. I think the corn, like the corn incorporation was good, not only because of the corporate sponsorship show is always going to be in there, but corn is a big deal to Iowa. So I think they incorporated the different pieces. I mean, the history was really close to me. It was close to a 5. It was like a 4, 4.5. Maybe I'll put that more at a 4.5, just because the people did take it into their own hands and create this trophy to really drum up enthusiasm. So I think that's just pretty awesome that it's just a bunch of local people. Anyone could have done it, And then the rivalry itself, I'm going to, again, kind of have a different methodology than Mike here. And I put it as a 4 because while it has been dominated by one school in, throughout the history of the rivalry, I think this still means a lot to the state, obviously, right? It took the people to get it back. It took the people to create the trophy, and it's their continued enthusiasm and showing up to this RVTV. Obviously if people didn't show up to it, it wouldn't happen. So yeah, I think that was pretty cool.
I'm going to bring my rivalry up to 3, like thinking about it and looking where I put other things at, like that just makes sense.
So then this is my first top tier. This is a top tier for me. This is the first one. Same. I think it's awesome. I love it. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, this is our highest ranked one across the board for sure.
This was great. This was great to research. I really enjoyed this one. So why don't we preview the game here? Let's bring this back. So we have a battle of the ranked and unbeaten, only if it's week 2, and between which is going to be formally the number 18 Iowa Hawkeyes, because that they're sure to rise in the standings come tomorrow, probably closer to 12, 13-ish, most likely just outside of the top 10.
That's what I'm thinking, because a lot of people fell ahead of them. So it just depends, I think, on what they do. Yeah, I think it's going to be around 12, 13. That seems right.
And they are traveling to Iowa State, which is number 7 in the nation. And that'll probably stay pretty stagnant because of their scare against Northern Iowa.
Yeah, and I don't think they're moving up or down. I think Clemson and Georgia, like I said, will probably switch. But yeah, I don't see Iowa State really moving too much.
So I kind of already gave part of this question away by already talking about the city that Iowa State University is in, and that's Ames. Are you guys super fans enough to know the name of the stadium?
I did know it actually, but because they mentioned it in QB1.
Is this Trice?
It is. Good job, Joe. Jack Trice Stadium, and it's named after Jack Trice, and he was the first African-American athlete for Iowa State. And unfortunately, Trice died due to injuries he suffered during a football game against the University of Minnesota on October 6, 1923. But the Jack Trice Stadium. Cool. And here's a little fun fact here before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game. Believe it or not, this is the first time in the history of the rivalry that both teams are ranked.
Really? Ever?
First time ever.
Wow.
First
they're going to be going nuts.
And it couldn't have come at a better time, because this is the last game on the current contract between the two teams.
For real.
Now, I would assume
the boys ready.
I would assume this would get renewed, but I'm hoping for a great game. I'm hoping for a lot of enthusiasm. This is going to be great, and kind of how Mike and I have teased this up to this point, but this is going to be the College Game Day, nationally televised.
Yeah, we're coming
announced later tonight
to your city
that this will be game day.
Well, not us, but
not us.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I can't this weekend.
All right. So what do you guys think? What's your guys' thoughts quickly on how you think this game will go, or the things to look for?
What's the kickoff? Is it going to be a night kickoff?
I can give this to you. It's ABC. It's on ABC at 4:30.
Okay.
Eastern Standard Time. So that would make it, I think,
Nice
3:30 there.
kickoff. I don't know, man. I mean, I didn't really watch Iowa or Iowa State play. Indiana was pretty good last year, so I caught some highlights from that game.
Iowa looked good in that game.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Iowa might be able to go on the road and pull off the upset here. Maybe they're one of those teams that's like sneaky underrated heading into the season. That could definitely be it. So do we have lines haven't come out yet? We'll definitely give a pick for this. I think Iowa, depending on how the lines shake out whenever it starts, I would imagine if they're dogs, they'll probably at least cover.
It's got to be a close line because a rivalry like this. I'm going to go Iowa as well. I think they looked good last week. I think they've been pretty solid the past few years. I think they're going to keep with it.
I really want to pick Iowa State, and I hope that this scare will kind of, shake things up for them. They have returning running backs, returning quarterbacks. It's at home. Iowa has a very, very good defense, might honestly be one of the best, if not the best defense in the Big Ten, but their offense is not super great. So they're definitely, you have an opportunity if Indiana threw 2 pick sixes, which really put them behind the 8 ball early. So
they could have been looking ahead too.
Right.
I could have been looking ahead.
I think if Iowa State keeps the turnovers down, and plays good defense, I think they can be in this. As of now, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say Iowa State close, very close, waning seconds. So just a reminder, this is College Game Day. It's nationally televised. Watch it, see if our facts are right. I'm sure they're going to talk about some of this. It'll be interesting to see if they show the trophy after the game. Hopefully they will. But this game is going to be played on ABC at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time.
I love it. I'm pumped.
And that's going to do it for us this week. So check out our Instagram page at whiskers.whiskies and make sure to smash that follow button for us. Also, keep an eye out Saturday morning, like we mentioned, for our posts with our favorite college football bets of the weekend. And make sure to respond with your favorite posts to us. And we will make sure to give a shout out to the winners that give us their best pick next episode.
Send in some sharing is caring, folks. Hot tips. Yes. Share them, please.
So join us next week as we dive into another Hoosier State battle, this time for the Shillelagh Trophy. So for Mike and Joe, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.